Good morning.
Good morning.
And what school are you from?
Third.
And what grade are you?
Third.
Oh dear. I've chosen 2 books today to read about birthdays. Why? Why are we doing birthday today? Whose birthday is it?
Yours? The library.
It's the library's birthday. This building is 40 years old.
40. There it says 4.
40. It should say 40. You suppose it only... Did they
Yeah, I
forget the
saw it.
0?
It has a library in Seoul.
Maybe they forgot the 0.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
Hey.
But I think that they just really put a 0 there. So you'll have to look more carefully and see. So you're 3rd graders at the Oliver School, and you are all reading and liking books.
Yes.
You read chapter. What's your favorite chapter book?
My favorite chapter book is Comic Guy.
Okay, and yours?
My favorite chapter book is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh. And your favorites?
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
The Fellowship of the Ring.
None of you read Captain Underpants?
I
Oh, okay. I was wondering what was wrong with this. The 3rd graders I know all like Captain Underpants. But anyway. But I didn't bring any Captain Underpants books today. And I know, that would have been fun. But I didn't know what grade I was going to be reading to. And I wasn't sure how I wanted to choose a theme, so I thought I'd take the theme of the library, of the birthday, because it's the library's birthday. And that's why we're having a party today. And we're having cookies. Yeah, I know, that's what I thought too, goody goody. So I have 2 different kinds of books to read to you today. Picture books. One is a book about a baby. Maybe he's 2 years old. I'm thinking maybe he's 2 years old.
think he looks like
And he's learning, maybe you think he's 1, yeah, somewhere 1 or 2. You have little brothers or sisters who are 1 or 2. Yeah. I have a grandson who's 4. Just he had his birthday last week. So I don't know a lot about birthday because I just been having a birthday with my 4-year-old grandson. But we're going to take a look at that book because I liked the way the sounds that the author has chosen are used in the story. She's chosen some interesting sounds. And I think reading out loud to people, if you have a chance to have some fun with sound, it's even better. The other book I've chosen is a book about somebody who's probably about your age, who goes to a birthday party with her friend who is a pig. Now, we live in the city, and in the city we can't even have chickens in our yard in the city. We can have cats and dogs, right? But we can't have farm animals living in our house. But this girl lives on a farm, and her best friend is a pig. I thought, that's a silly idea. I want to read that book. So that's what I'm going to read. Those 2 books. Let's start with the baby book. And you need the mic so I can be, here we go, somewhere in here. We got a book.
That's what.
So it begins, this story, which is written by Karen Lee Cohen and illustrated by Roseanne Litzinger, called Happy to You. It begins with a birthday party. The day Daniel went to Sue's house, he saw yellow balloons floating on spoons, and a happy cat napping on a happy face hat, and whistling. See what I mean about sounds?
Yeah.
It rhymes, it has some sound. And rapping's ripping, and block stump bumping, and the happy cat jumping, and a black truck booming. And a pink cake twinkling, twinkling. And boys and girls saying, "Oh!" and singing, "Happy birthday to you." Daniel sang too, "Happy to you." On his way home, Daniel saw mommies and daddies and babies and dogs and said, "Happy to you, happy to you." At home, Daniel hugged his brown cow named Moo and said, "Happy to you." To the white bunny on his blue book, he said, "Happy to you." To Daniel in the mirror, he said, "Happy to you." Daniel ran out the back door. "Happy to you," he said to his big green yard. And Mommy said, "Happy to you, big blue sky." "Happy to you, slidey slide," Daniel said. "Happy to you, bally ball." Whoosh went the wind. And Mommy said, "Whoosh." "Happy to you, wishity wind," Daniel said. Wind wiggled the trees, wiggledy wiggledy flippity leaves. And Mommy said, "Happy to you, flippity leaves." "Happy to you, lippity leaves," Daniel said. Chirp, chirp, chirp in the wiggly trees. "Happy to you, chirp, chirp, chirp. Happy to you, wiggly trees," said Daniel. Whirr in the sky. And Mommy said, "Airplanes up there. Happy to you, whirr. Happy to you, air," Daniel said. "Happy to you, blue," he told the sky. "Happy to you, day," he told the world and waved goodbye. In his room, Daniel's shoes came off. "Happy to you, offity shoes," he said. "Happy to you, fresh diaper on," Mommy said. "Happy to you, freshity shirt," he said. Mommy put Daniel in his bed. "Nap time," she said. There was a little word "no" in his head, but instead he said, "Happy to you, nap time." "Happy to you, Mommy." "Happy to you, Daniel," she said, and she kissed his nose and fingers and toes. "Happy to you, nose and toes," Daniel said. "Happy to you, sleepy moo." And Daniel put his sleepy head on his soft, cozy, comfy pillow and closed his eyes, happy to sleep, Mommy said. Doesn't that make a wonderful use of noise and sounds? It's a lovely little book about a lovely little boy who really enjoys the world around him. And I hope that one of the things that you get from reading that book, in addition to saying, "Oh boy, birthday parties are fun," another thing that you get from it is looking at the world around you to see and hear, listening to the world around you, what's going on. We have even in the city of Lawrence, we have chirp, chirp, chirp in the city of Lawrence. What else do we have? We have meow. And brrr. And I can't even make the sound that a helicopter makes. My grandson, as I said, I have a 4-year-old grandson. He tries to make the helicopter sound. That's hard. What other sounds can you think of that we hear around us? Yep. Right here, Boston. Flight. You hit your hand up. What sounds do you like that you hear in Lawrence? How about somebody else while he's thinking? Yeah?
Zipper.
Zippers. Now that's interesting. Yes. The airplanes when they're flying. Part of the reason we can hear airplanes when they're flying is we have the Lawrence Airport just nearby. And so there are planes coming in and going out, and we hear them close to us. We can really hear them. What other kinds of sounds can we hear? Nope. Okay, back row.
Birds chirping.
Birds chirping, yeah. I hear birds all the time. Besides chirp, 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 what kind of birds do you hear? Hear a sound like
A pigeon.
a pigeon, yeah. And like some other kind of bird. I don't know. That maybe is a robin, I think.
Hummingbird.
Hummingbirds. Do hummingbirds hum? What song do they hum? No, just because their wings make a noise. Back row. A hawk? Oh, I have a niece who makes the sound of a hawk, and when she makes the sound of a hawk, the hawks in the neighborhood come to see her. Now, we have hawks in our neighborhood in Lawrence, on Marston Street, next door to where that 4-year-old grandson lives. We have hawks living. Bless you. There's a sound we hear. There's a sound we hear in Lawrence, sneezing. What other kinds of sounds do we hear?
Crows.
Crows, yeah. Okay, let's go away from the birds. What other kinds of sounds do we hear?
Snoring.
Snoring. You hear snoring?
What goes by the classroom? We hear it all the time outside.
Yeah? Ambulance. Oh, what else?
Fire trucks.
Fire truck. What else? Honking, yes. Why do we hear honking? Because people want to move their car. Or because a taxi's coming looking for their fare.
Or
They
maybe
beep their
it's
horn.
maybe there's a lot of traffic.
Maybe there's a lot of traffic and people get anxious. So you are doing a good job of thinking about listening. And I hope you will enjoy listening and maybe even someday writing about what you hear. And thinking about how to write down the sound of a truck or the sound of a plane or whatever that sound is. Think about we're not going to talk anymore, but just think about how would you do that? This author has thought about how to write down sounds. And when you're writing, that's an interesting project, to write sounds. Okay, next book. I don't know what time,
We have about 5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No. When you take a pig to a party by Christina Thormanius McClary, that means that she's family in Sweden probably. And Myra McClary, pictures by Marjorie Wunsch. Okay, 5 minutes before we have cookies. Okay, I talk too much. It's not unusual for me. Adelaide and Sherman do lots of things together. They swing on the tire swing hanging from the black oak tree. They slide down the hay bale in the barn. And they like a good game of horseshoes after supper. Adelaide has always said that Sherman is the dearest, sweetest, most wonderful and best behaved pig in the world. So, of course, she thought it would be okay to take him to Ethan's birthday party, especially since she gave Sherman a bath, sprinkled some of her mother's best perfume on him, tied her father's polka dot bow tie around his neck. Things did go just dandy at first. Sherman loved musical chairs and even one pinned the tail on the donkey. But then Adelaide got so carried away watching Marlon the magician that she forgot to keep an eye on Sherman. So before she knew it, Sherman was in the flower garden munching away. And when Ethan's daddy saw Sherman, he bellowed, "There's a pig in our peonies!" And Adelaide and Ethan and all of the children took off after Sherman, yelling, "Stop, Sherman, stop!" But Sherman, thinking that they wanted to play chase, started running in circles and bumped into Ethan's daddy, sending popcorn hurling like a January blizzard, which startled Sherman, who ran between Marlon the magician's legs, causing the rabbit just popping out of Marlon's hat to land kerplop on Sherman's back, which astonished Sherman so much that he scampered through a hole under the fence to where the McKinneys were having a barbecue. In fact, Sherman was running so fast he didn't even see the McKinney's swimming pool, and he landed just flat right in it. And the McKinneys and all their guests roared, "There's a pig in the pool!" And Adelaide and Ethan and all of the children chased after Sherman, yelling, "Stop, Sherman, stop!" But Sherman didn't stop. Instead, he splashed across the pool, scrambled out, and squeezed through a loose plank into Mrs. Primrose's yard. And before Adelaide could get a word out, Sherman was heading through the open door into Mrs. Primrose's house, where she was hosting a bridge club luncheon. "Eek! There's a pig in my parlor!" shrieked Mrs. Primrose, whereupon Cassandra, Mrs. Primrose's cat, so dismayed to see a pig in her house, took a flying leap and landed kerplunk on Sherman's back. And Adelaide and Ethan and all the children, with muddy clothes and muddy feet, tramped through Mrs. Primrose's parlor, crying, "Stop, Sherman, stop!" But Sherman was already in the next yard, where Mrs. Hayden was painting her flower boxes, and Mr. Hayden stuck his head out of the window to see what the commotion was all about. He tipped a pot of geraniums into a bucket of paint, sending paint splattering over everything and everybody. Mrs. Hayden squealed, "There's a pig in our paint!" Adelaide and Ethan and all of the children, with muddy clothes and muddy feet and paint in their hair and on their best party clothes, shouted, "Stop, Sherman, stop!" But Sherman simply would not stop. Instead, he darted across the street where Mr. Whipple was watering his lawn. And when Mr. Whipple turned in surprise, he sprayed water all over Mr. and Mrs. Rice, who were just coming home from the bakery. That, of course, caused them to throw up their hands in despair, sending donuts kerplunking, scrambling all over the sidewalk. Adelaide and Ethan and all of the children scurried over Mr. Whipple's lawn, screaming, "Stop, Sherman, stop!" And finally, at long last, Sherman stopped. To eat the donuts, of course. But just as Adelaide was about to grab Sherman by his bow tie, Mr. and Mrs. Rice howled, "There's a pig in our pastry!" Which gave Sherman such a fright, he took off again, heading straight for Lucy Marple, who was coming down the street on her brand new skateboard. "Help! There's a pig in my path!" Lucy hollered. Adelaide and Ethan and all the children called out at the top of their lungs, "Jump, Lucy! Jump off!" But when Lucy jumped off her skateboard and did a backward flip and landed kerplunk under Sherman's feet, which sent Sherman careening toward Ethan's yard, where Ethan's mother was putting the candles on the prettiest, yummiest, most delicious, most scrumptious-looking birthday cake you ever saw. And Adelaide and Ethan and all the children wailed, "Oh, no, not the cake!" And they yelled and howled and screamed and shrieked and cried and shouted and begged, "Stop, Sherman, please stop!" And ker-smack, ker-bash, ker-boom, he did. So if you ask Adelaide, she'll tell you, you never know what will happen when you take a pig to a party. The end. You are such good listeners.
What do we say, you guys?
Thank you.
Have a lovely cookie time.
I
And
think you have a new cook coming in.
I think so, and I need to get out of here. Thank you so much.
Okay, why don't you guys stand up and walk up the stairs?
Yeah, this book is about Curious George. Who knows who Curious George is?
Curious George is like the silly monkey.
Right, he's always getting in trouble and things, right? Getting mischief and stuff. Well, this thing, while attending the opening of a new police station, Curious George got into some more mischief than anybody can handle. He locked up the mayor and the chief of police. Oh. This time, though, George learned a lesson in behaving himself. Here's a picture of Curious George. And who's in jail? Anybody see?
Oh,
Well, you can see the guy in uniform, so he's
I
probably
do.
who?
The mayor.
Oh, no, in uniform, he would be the police chief.
The police.
Now,
the
the other
mayor.
guy must be the mayor because
Yeah.
he's not in uniform, right?
Yeah.
And there's George up there at the top of on the bars, and he's kind of wondering what's going on here. Maybe I did something wrong, right? George is sitting at a table, and who's he sitting with?
The man with the yellow hat.
Right, what's his name?
The man with the yellow hat.
Okay. Doesn't have a name? All right, but he's sitting with the man with the yellow hat, and they're having, I guess, looks like breakfast. And the man with the yellow hat said, "We've been invited to the new police station, George." Said his friend. So they're sitting at the table getting ready, and I guess he tells them about the invitation to the police station. The police chief, the mayor, and other guests were standing on the steps when they arrived. So Curious George and his friend are arriving at the police station, and you have you have the mayor, you have the police chief, and you have other people as well, probably who work in the police station. Not everybody who works in the police station is a police officer, right? We know we have clerks, we have civilian people that work there, so it's not all police officers, there's other people as well. So they must work in the police station. The first thing they saw inside was a new alarm system. A lot of police departments have alarm systems. Why? Because who comes into the police station besides people needing help? Who else? All right, and who do the police bring in sometimes? Criminals, that's right. So we have to have an alarm system in case, so when we lock up these criminals, in case they get out or something happens, we have to be prepared to deal with it. So there's an alarm system in every police station. But the mic doesn't really make any sound, just the camera. Oh, you want me to hold it? You can hold it. Oh, that's even better. Wow. So now they're standing in front of the police station, and he showed them the alarm system. And now, George was curious. He wanted to get a closer look. So while they're looking at the alarm system, George has decided to walk away, right? He's not listening to the officer. He decided he's going to walk away. But it was too crowded. He wandered off to find something else to look at. In the basement, he found a row of jail cells. Now, George could have some fun. Now, all police stations have jail cells downstairs because sometimes we have to arrest people. We don't want to arrest people, but sometimes we have to. It's part of our job. So when we do arrest them, and before we take them to court, we have to put them in a jail cell. And we have them downstairs. So he climbed up the bars and swung from the jail cells. You see him swinging around, having a good time and enjoying himself. While George was busy clanging the doors, the mayor and the chief came down to inspect the cells. George did not see them. So now George is having a good time swinging from all the jail cells, and the mayor and the police chief come down. Now what happened, George didn't realize that the mayor and the police chief were there. So when he closed the door on one of the cells, guess what happened? The mayor and the police chief were locked up in a cell together. Now George, you can see he knows he's in trouble. Help, the mayor shouted. Who did that? It was the little monkey, the chief cried. Guards, get him. But no one heard, and George ran away. So now the police chief and the mayor are pretty mad because they're locked up in a cell. Because George was what? Being curious and playing, and
That's why he's called curious.
exactly. And but now he knows he's in trouble. So what has George done? George runs away. George ran by the alarm system, then he stopped. Now he could get a closer look. So now he's looking at the alarm system that everybody was looking at before, but there were too many people standing around and George didn't want to wait. But now there's nobody there. So George takes a look at it. So George was curious. What would happen if he pushed the red button? George had to find out. So he pushed it. What do we think happened?
It makes a sound.
It makes a loud
Exactly. And what did that tell the police officer there inside the police station?
I think that's something.
Something's going wrong. Suddenly, sirens were screaming, and policemen came running from every direction because they were all wondering, something's going wrong. Somebody pressed the alarm. There must be an emergency. Now, George was really in trouble. He ran down the basement. A policeman ran after him. So now, policemen realized that I guess that George is the one who hit the button, and now they're kind of pretty upset because you shouldn't press any button for emergency unless what? Unless there is an emergency, right? So now George, but the police officer was pretty fast. George was fast, but so was the police officer. And he caught him. And you can see he's caught him now, and now George knows he's in trouble. Lock him up, they heard someone cry out. It was the mayor and the police chief. So now the police officer is downstairs. He's grabbed George for what? For hitting that button and causing an emergency. And now they hear someone say from the cells, lock him up. And they're looking, who is it? It's the mayor and the police chief. Will someone please get us out of here? The chief shouted. So now the officers realize that their police chief is in jail. The policeman holding George asked, should I lock him up? Well, the chief said, he did lock us up, but then he also let you fellows down here to get us out. So I guess we'll let him go. So the police chief and the mayor were kind of mad, but then they realized at one point that Curious George, after hitting that red button, the emergency button, and the police officer chasing him, he brought the police officer downstairs to where the mayor and the police chief were locked up, and now they were able to get out. So now they're not so mad anymore. But they were mad in the beginning, right? Yeah. Now let's go upstairs and get on with the ceremony, said the mayor. So the mayor's going upstairs. George was left alone in the basement. He was soon busy swinging from cell to cell one more time. So what happened? Apparently George didn't learn his lesson because he was doing it again, swinging from, after they gave him a chance, they said, okay, with a mistake. He's swinging from the bar. In the middle of the ceremony, a policeman came up and whispered in the chief's ear, "We have a problem." One of the jail cells got locked again. So George is downstairs swinging from the jail cells, and now they have a problem. One of the cells locked. My guess is what? What happened? What do we think happened?
Hit the red button.
No, I don't think he hit the red button. I think
I think he locked himself.
Yeah, I think that's what he did. Not again. Where's that monkey? And sure enough, they rushed down to see who got locked up this time. Were they surprised when they found out it was George? So George didn't learn his lesson. He wasn't content in just locking the police chief and the mayor up. He kept playing downstairs, and now he's in jail. Sure. And now he's not real happy now. "I hope you learned your lesson," said the chief. "I'll give you one more chance." "Thanks, chief," said the man with the yellow hat. He'd been looking for George everywhere, so his friend had realized that George had disappeared and was somewhere in the police station. I don't think his friend knew how much trouble George was getting into. But they found him and they let him out. The chief opened the door and George jumped into his friend's arms. "Let's go home," said the man. And that's what they did. So what happened here today? Right. Now, should he have been playing in the cells? No. Because they were doing a tour of the building, so they were taking people down to different places. And he should have stayed there, but George is curious, George, and he decided he was going to go throughout the building and hit buttons that were emergency buttons and lock people in the cells by accident, obviously, and then lock himself in. So you think George learned his lesson?
Yep. Yes.
I hope so.
Are you going to do it again?
Well, we'll see. Okay. That's one book. How was that book? Did you like that book?
Yes.
Pretty cool book. Put that over there. Let's see what we have here now. We have a book.
Police officer.
In my neighborhood, police officers. Okay. One of them looks like Tom Cuddy, doesn't he? Does it look like Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah, it looks like Tommy.
But with the cheeks.
Okay. In my neighborhood, police officers. Everybody's asleep. Clang, 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 clatter, bang. Natalie hears a commotion and she's worried. Somebody has been stealing bicycles in the neighborhood. Maybe the thieves are in her garage. Natalie creeps into her parents' room and whispers, "Call the police." Now, so Natalie's in bed. People have been stealing bicycles in the neighborhood and she hears a noise. So she goes and tells her mother, "Mom, we need to call the police." Natalie's mother reaches for the phone. The police number is written down clearly nearby. Does everybody have the police number? If you want to get police in the city, what number do you call?
911.
If you have any kind of emergency, you need an ambulance or fire department, what number do you call?
911.
That's right. Remember, it's 911. So Natalie's mother reaches for the... Yeah, you have to know. That's an important number to know. Natalie's mother reaches for the phone. The police number is written down clearly nearby. When the phone is answered, she said, "We think somebody's trying to break in. Our name is Best. We live at 123 Main Street. The closest intersection is Main and South Street. Don't worry," she tells Natalie. "The police will be right there." Now, what is the mother doing? She's calling police, but she's giving them information exactly what's happening, right? She's telling somebody's breaking in, she believes. She gives them the name of the people who live there, her name. And she gives them the address. And she tells them the intersections of where. Because a lot of times police officers, you give them an address, we need to know what the intersection might be so we can go right to there as quick as possible because we want to get there as soon as we can. Because here, what's going on here? Perhaps somebody is breaking into the house. Correct. As soon as the police dispatcher gets the call, a message is sent out to the computer or radio inside the patrol car closest to the Best house. So what happens in the city, police cars are always driving in the city, driving around. But we can contact them by the radio. And if something's happened, we call the car that's in that area. There's a car in every area, and they respond to the location. Usually the officer works in pairs. As soon as they hear the message, the officer signals to the dispatcher that they are on the way. In some emergencies, lots of police cars are sent. So we don't always just send one car. If it's something really serious, we may send 2, 3, 4 cars. A lot of cars, because we want to make sure we have enough police at the location to deal with whatever going on. The officers do not use their siren this time. Why don't you think they use their siren?
Because then they usually got the criminal marijuana.
That's right. We use the sirens to be able to get through traffic. But if we're going to a call where we want to catch somebody in the act, we don't want to let them know we're coming. So we don't use a siren. They want to arrive quietly and catch the thieves in the act. So there are the 2 officers, right? There they are. And they got the call. When they arrive, they go to the house. Speak to the people to make sure, you want to make sure the people who live there are okay. The officers, sure. The officers use their flashlight to search the neighborhood. A garbage can be seen knocked over. Do you see the garbage can here? So somebody knocked it over, which means probably somebody was moving around in the dark, right? And kind of bumped into the can and knocked it over. A garbage can had been knocked over, but there's no sign that somebody had tried to break in or open the doors or windows. They jot in their notebook and keep on looking. All quiet now, they tell the family, the Best family. There have been a lot of bicycle thefts around here. Do you have a good lock on your bike? Now, when you take your bike out, do you lock your bike up?
No, I put it inside my house.
Good, good. Either put it in your house or, because unfortunately, sometimes if you leave a bike out in the garage and the door is open, somebody sees it and say, hey, you know what? I need a bike.
My bike locked up really good, and when I went outside to get my bike, they were stolen.
Oh, that's it.
I like my right. I have a bike inside my house and I have one in my basement.
Yeah, just want to make sure you lock it up if you're outside, because if not, somebody can come by and take it. All's quiet now, they tell the family. There's been a lot of bicycle thefts around here. Do you have a good lock on your bike? And they asked, and Natalie nodded. And I registered my bike with the police department. Now, what do we mean by register your bike with the police department?
They took the bike to the police department to check it.
Right, and we give it a number sometimes. We give it a serial number. So we find your bike, and we find, how many bikes a year, Tommy?
Oh.
We find 100 bikes a year that we don't know who belongs to. And we have them all in the police station, and at the end of the year, the city just auctions them off because nobody ever claimed them. But if you put your mark on a bike, your serial number, and we find it, we say, okay, this bike belongs to Johnny Jones, and we can return the bike back. And as I said, Natalie nods. I registered my bike with the police department. You have to make the color and the registration number in your computer, she says. That's smart, said the officer. Sometimes we find a lost or stolen bike and we don't know who owns them. And in Lawrence, we find a lot of bikes.
And a lot of mini motorcycles.
A lot of mini motorcycles. So the next day, on her way to school, Natalie notices something suspicious. There is a big blue van parked behind an abandoned building. She writes the license plate down in her notebook and tells the principal when she gets to school. The principal calls police. So what happened? Natalie's riding her bike to school, and she sees something that, that doesn't seem right. Maybe, yeah, maybe it's okay, but it just doesn't seem right. So Natalie takes the license plate number down, and she goes to school, and she tells the responsible person, the principal. The principal calls the police. The officers drive slowly by the schoolyard. At the bike rack, they see 2 men look around nervously, and then in a flash, slice through a bicycle lock with a small saw. So what's happening at the school?
They're stealing bikes.
They're stealing bikes at the school. But what did Natalie do?
She write the car and that's it.
And then what did she do?
Give it to the
She gave it to the principal. And the principal called police. So what's happening right now? Who's coming?
cops.
The cops are coming. The police are coming.
That's pretty smart taking the license.
Just as they're about to ride off, the police officers tell them they are under arrest for stealing and they're going for a different ride to the police station. Because of Natalie being alert, because she told the principal, an adult, something she believed to be wrong, it may be wrong, these 2 people who were stealing bicycles in the neighborhood are now under arrest. At the station, the men are taken to a room to be questioned by police detectives. When we arrest people, what we do is we bring them to a room. and we talk to them before we arrest them. They don't have to talk to us, but sometimes they do. And we talk to them and see if they want to talk to us and tell us what they did and why they did it and who else they're working with.
Some people don't talk because they're afraid that they're going to lock them up for more time.
Well, but sure, but some do talk to us. The men asked for a lawyer to be present. The police officers who made the arrest still have to work to do. They look in the back of the blue van, and what do they find? 15 bicycles inside the back of the van. So guess what? Who's stealing the bikes? These two guys. Yeah, these two guys are stealing the bike, no question. The men are let go until their trial in a courtroom. A lot of times people are arrested and they're let go, but they have to come back to court. In court, a lawyer for the accused men and a lawyer for the government, who is called a district attorney, will ask the police officers questions about what they saw. It will be the judge's job to decide if the men are guilty of stealing bicycles and to decide the punishment. So what happens is we arrest people. They have a right to an attorney to defend them. The district attorney defends the city, the people, and they put a case. And the judge listens to the facts and listens to the police officers, what they saw and their evidence, and then the judge makes a decision as to what happens to these two individuals. Right. Later that night, Natalie hears the clank, 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 bang. The bike thieves are back, she calls to her parents. Call the police. The officers arrive within seconds. They move quickly and quietly through the dark. They shine their flashlight into the alley. So the police officers are back. There's Natalie and her mother, and she points in the direction. I've caught the masked robber, said the officers, but I think we'll let them go without warning. A police officer has to be prepared for anything. So it's not really a robber. What are we seeing here? What has a bit of a mask? What animal? Raccoons. And what do raccoons love to do? Go through garbage. They're always going through garbage looking for whatever they can find in the garbage that they could eat. And that's where they were, and they got caught by the police officers. So the police officers say, okay, so it's raccoons, so we're not going to take them to jail because they're just looking for food. All police officers are ready to help people who are lost, hurt, or afraid. They are your friend. Police officers make sure people obey the law. And there are many different kinds of police work. Some officers teach children to be safe. Now, that's Tommy Cuddy. Tommy arrests a lot of people. But Tommy helps a lot of people too. Tommy meets with kids. He gives out stickers, which he's going to do now in a little while. And he talks to classes and gives advice to kids. So police officer's job is more than just arresting people. In fact, a very small part of what we do is arresting people. Most of our time is helping people. And Tommy does a lot of that.
Like yesterday, a couple arrested the people that they don't look actually like if they be actually cops.
Yeah, undercover cops. We do that as well. Some officers control crowds at concerts and sports events. Some officers investigate crime and traffic accidents. So police officers do a lot of things. A lot of things besides just arresting criminals. There are many different kinds of police. All villages, towns, and cities have police departments. Large cities are big for just one police department, or one police building. So the city is set up with many offices or police precincts. Now, I worked in New York City before I came to Lawrence. And guess how many cops were in New York City when I was there? How many do you think? 40,000 police officers.
40,000?
40,000. That's how many.
Close.
Yeah, 40,000. And there were 69 different police stations throughout the city. And a bunch of other little stations as well. What's that?
Come on, Dad.
Do I know your dad? Yeah. But there's a lot of police stations, and there are city police officers like Tommy and I are city police officers. There are state police officers. The state has a police department, and then there's the other police department, which is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and they work as well in the cities and towns. They help out. The FBI works very closely with us, and the state police work very closely with us. Police who wear uniform patrol the neighborhood by car, by walk, or on foot. We don't have anybody riding a horse, but we do have people riding bicycles. Tommy every now and then gets on a bicycle, rides his bike. Sometimes police may fool a criminal by wearing irregular street clothes. That's what you were talking about. The undercover officers. Because
yesterday they were arresting a guy.
right, because we see a lot of people committing crimes, and they don't know the police officers are there, and we want to catch them doing it.
And they got a different car than
Right, and they pretend they're not police officers. They pretend that they're just regular people, but they're undercover, and they're there to catch the criminals. A criminal might commit a crime while an undercover officer looks on. An undercover officer may foil a bank robbery while pretending to be a bank customer. That happens too sometimes. We have banks are going to be robbed, or we believe they might be robbed, so we put police officers there to act like customers, so people don't know they're police officers. And here, and the one I talked about, I said the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, works all across America. They actually work in Lawrence, too. They do a lot of work in Lawrence. An FBI agent may have to conduct an investigation through many different states in order to solve a crime. The FBI works not only in Lawrence or Massachusetts, they may be working in New York on the same case. It may take them all over the country. Some police officers walk in a neighborhood and get to know all the people in their community. That's called a community policing officer. And that's what Tommy started at when he first joined the police department. But police get around a lot of different ways. And what do we see here? You ride around in vans. We don't have a helicopter, but the state police has a helicopter. And you see that flying over in Lawrence all the time. If somebody falls into the river, or somebody may jump off a bridge or something, you see the state police helicopters out there. Now you see Lawrence motorcycles. You see Lawrence police have motorcycles. They're out there.
I have only seen two.
And we have a lot of motorcycles. We have a boat. We have a, what's the name of the river that goes through the middle of the city?
The American.
And in the summertime, people are out there enjoying it on jet skis and boats, and we have a police boat that goes out there. And you know who drives the police boat, right? Tommy. On bicycles and in patrol cars. Tommy does a lot. Now, a couple pointers. Remember to stay alert and stay safe. Always stick with the same route going to and from school, playground, and friends' home. Make sure your parents know the route you take. Check the route over with parents, possible unsafe places. So whenever you walk, always walk with someone with you when you can. Always go the same way. Don't go in the back way or alleyways. Go in the main streets where people can see you.
I wish I did.
You need to with something you can be. So walk in a safe area. Always go to places with buddies, and make sure your parents know where you are at all times. Keep your friends' addresses and phone numbers by your phone. So not only should your parents know where you are all the time, they should know how to reach you at your friend's house. Address, telephone number. Always say no if anybody invites you alone in his or her home or car, even if you're with your friends. So if you're walking along the street, coming home from school or playing, and someone says, "Come on, I'll give you a ride home," don't do it.
If
Say
you
no.
don't know
You
that.
don't know that they're going to take you somewhere else.
Exactly. You never run away. What do? You run away as fast as you can, and you go to you find the first adult you find, and ask for help. Always tell your parents or an adult you trust if something has happened that bothered you, even if it's about somebody in your family knows and well and liked. It's not your fault if somebody acts in a way that makes you uncomfortable. You don't have to keep it a secret no matter what anyone says. So if someone you know does something that you don't think is right, what do? You tell your parents, right? Even if this person is a family member, or even if this person is very close and tells you, "Don't say nothing, this is between us." No, you tell your parents. Always keep the door closed and locked when you are home alone.
I never did.
Always pretend you've got a grown-up company if you're home alone. So if somebody called on the phone, I said, "Let me speak to your mother." I said, "No, I'm here by myself." No, you never say that. She can't come right now. She's cooking. Or my father is working on something. He can't come. Never let anybody know you're alone at home.
Because if you send them alone and they know your address,
Right, they can come in. Sure. Exactly. So never let anybody know you're home alone.
My mom says to tell them that she's on taking care of the baby.
Yeah, she's on, exactly.
I
She's
said,
there.
if someone calls me and asks me and if my mom's here, I said, Bobby, my mom's in the house watching it.
That's right. Good.
Take care of my baby brother.
That's good.
If you want to go, do it.
That's right. That's excellent. Always have a family password. Adults who want you to stay with them or go somewhere with them must know the password. So what's that all about? So there's a password that they should have. Your family would give them that it's okay. But they should know that. Always refuse to go anywhere with a stranger or somebody who makes you feel uncomfortable. No matter what they say to you, most people are helpful and kind, but some people are mean. They might try to trick you by offering you something nice, such as a kitten or a puppy, a toy, or ice cream. They might try to trick you by telling you that something is wrong with your parents. They might even trick you by telling you that you are going to be on a television show or made famous if you go with them. What's the answer to that?
No.
No. Always say no.
If they say that something is happening to my dad and they want to take me, I'll be like, no.
You say no. Excellent.
Karen? Hello, this is Mark. Mark on banjo. Does anyone know where the banjo came from? The country? The continent? The whole continent? Yeah?
No. It arrived in America, but it came from somewhere else.
But this is my version of the map of the world. These are just continents. It doesn't have the islands. But one of these continents is where this instrument came from. Yeah. Close, starts with an A. Asia. Africa. And Mark explained to me that this instrument, as it travels from country to country, it takes on the identity of the country that it comes to. So every nation has their own version of music.
So when former slaves and immigrants came to Lawrence, 1841, the Erie Railroad just begun. They were working on the railroad, and they were building the mills here.
1800.
Over there, right over there.
The story of Lawrence. Well, I also wanted to, we got onto the story because Mark was playing a song about elephants. And I have a whole collection of elephants because I love elephants. You like elephants?
Yeah.
Yes? And I'm talking about elephants because it's almost summer, and you are going to have a chance this summer to read books that you love to read, your very favorite books that you might not have read yet. You can have your own reading time to pick a book. Has anyone yet read the one and only Ivan? Oh, you're so lucky because you get to read this book. It's a beautiful story. It made me cry, but it made me happy at the end. It's one of those books where you feel very, very sad. It's a story where you feel this is such a bad thing that's happening. But there are people that are problem solvers that figure out how to get what's good, how to fight for something that's right. The story, Ivan is a gorilla, and his friend is an elephant. And Ivan lives in a cage. He's a prisoner in a cage. And people pay money to see him. And it's not even as good as a zoo. It's more like an attraction beside the road where people can pay 50 cents and they can go look at this gorilla that's kept in a box. And there's something else about this. Maybe if you heard anything about this, it's a story, it's fiction, but he does something that some gorillas can do. And actually, I saw a book that elephants can do. Gorillas have very still fingers, and he can hold a paintbrush, and he can, if he has paint, he can draw. And it's his ability to draw that helps him solve the problem of where he lives, so he doesn't have to live in a cage anymore. Does anyone know an elephant joke? What? Elephant joke? Do you need So I have a call out for elephant jokes. Have you ever heard an elephant joke?
No. Okay, I'll tell you one. And you can, and after I tell you one, you'll say, oh, yeah, I know about those jokes. Okay, here's the joke, and it's in the book. How can you tell if an elephant has been in the refrigerator? No, I'm serious. Okay. Say, that's a good one. If it's quite cold, then okay, that's one answer. Do you have an answer? Anybody have an answer? Oh, if the refrigerator is a big mess, then you can tell that it was probably the elephant. Yeah? Of course, it was the elephant. So there's tracks of mud at the refrigerator. Okay.
There was a mouse in the refrigerator because elephants don't like mice.
Oh, you know that wonderful tale about the elephant and the mouse. So these are brilliant. These are brilliant. Okay, do you know the answer in the book? Oh, you can try one more. Peanut butter on the floor, dead giveaway. Okay, well, the answer in this book, too, how can you tell if the elephant has been in the refrigerator? Footprints in the butter. Okay. Does it make any sense to you? Well, that's because it doesn't make any sense to anybody. But now that's a joke you can take home and you can ask your brothers and sisters. You can ask, if you have any 5-year-olds at home, say, how can you tell? How can you tell if there's an elephant that's been in your refrigerator? Now you know the answer? Say it. Footprints in the butter. And then somebody had do you remember the one about an ant joke, the ant joke?
I don't.
Someone in the last group had an elephant joke, and he said, what's the biggest kind of ant there is? An elephant. Elephant. The one and only Ivan, you will never forget this book if you read it this summer. It's an exquisite story. I won't. But I have another elephant. Yes. What you call that? Do you have to have a certain number of pages to include in the book report? This book has 304 pages.
Wow.
Oh, and when you get to page 305, you will wish you would give anything if there could be a page 306, because it was so good, you don't want to stop. Is that kind of book? And also, she writes in like short spaces in between, so it goes really fast. It's a fast one, the story.
You should all read one big book a year. All the time, your whole life. And the longer your summer vacation, the more big books.
The more big books. Yeah. Okay, did you know that elephants do yoga?
I have a poster of Babar.
Well, that's no God. But Babar's yoga for elephants. This book, it says in the back, this is a book that is really written for elephants who are interested in yoga, but there may be some people who would be interested too. going to do.
I'm going to put this down. Okay. Arms up. Arms up. Clasp your hands. Hold them together. Hold them together. Okay, reach your arms outside your ears. That's right. Take a steep off and point your front fingers are reaching up, reaching together. Now we're going to, as the elephants do in yoga, we're going to reach your fingers over toward the right. Oh, yes. That's it. And then reach out. Reach out. And reach your fingers over toward the left. And reach out. And keep your hands together and bring them down. Palms are touching each other. Bring them down. And your hands by yourself. Wow, look at that. Okay, just bring the right arm. Reach. Oh, you don't know what you walked in on here. And then we're going to reach over toward that wall over there. And then back up. And bring the hand right down. And then the other arm up. And reach over toward the history of Lawrence. And back. And sit back and Is there a song for this? Elephants doing yoga, or people who couldn't benefit from lessons elephants have learned about yoga. This is very cute because on the back there are all kinds of pictures of elephants doing yoga. You know, I'm not recommending this for your summer reading, but it's kind of fun to read that. I do have another book that I recommend. Fifth grade, right? Oh, perfect, you're fourth. And fifth. Okay, this is perfect for both of you.
It's another elephant story.
Did I mention that I like elephants? This one is called A Million Shades of Grey, and it's a story about. Is anyone here 11? Okay.
Oh, wow.
This boy is 11 years old. He lives in Vietnam. And his job, he has a job, and his job is training elephants. Because they use elephants for hard work. The elephants would be strapped onto like the gear for a horse. And he's like a horse. And they use them to drag heavy, heavy things because the elephants are so strong. But the thing is that they must be obedient because they are so strong they can hurt people a lot. So I'm going to read you the opening of this book about an 11-year-old boy who is learning how to train elephants. South Vietnam. What continent is South Vietnam? Yes. The continent? The name of the continent? Asia. Asia. You can. This map is somebody. They put their finger in an ink pad, and they made a map of the continents just with their fingertips in ink pad. That'd be kind of fun to do. This is Asia. Way over here. And Vietnam actually is this little tip, this little bottom part of Asia. So just pretend you're 11 and your job is training an elephant that is taller than the height of this room. And because you can't kind of, if I had a dog here, come on, hurry up, sit down. I can control the dog, but just imagine controlling something that big. He has to learn. What do you think you should do to make an elephant listen to you? What would you do to make an elephant? they do one thing, you pat them twice. They do something else. That might work. Well, how do you train an elephant? Treats or balls or whatever. What's their favorite thing? Yeah. How would you train an elephant? Peanuts. How would you train an elephant? Yeah. Yeah, what would you use? You'd use peanuts? Okay, yeah. A penny. Your voice is very powerful. How would you train? Oh, she would learn elephant. I've been reading about this. Elephants do have a language, and it carries for many, many, many miles across the savannah where they live. Very smart. She's going to learn how to talk elephant. All of the elephant knows. Okay. Yeah. Are elephants colorblind? Does anybody know the answer? Has anyone studied elephants? If they do like colors. Okay. So she's suggesting reading a color that the elephant likes. Okay. I'm going to read you this opening. We're going to Vietnam. We're going with this enormous creature that will fill much of this room and is taller than this ceiling. Eaton Ivan watched Thomas passing the rope around Lady's neck. Lady is the elephant. Lady was the smallest of the village's 3 elephants, but she was also the strongest. So she was much in demand as a worker, and she pulled heavy things like steel wheels. Today, Lady would be draining logs. When the women's house had caught fire and they were building a new one, Eaton stood just in back to the side of Thomas. Sometimes Thomas got annoyed at how closely Eaton stood, but Eaton didn't want to miss anything. On the other hand, Eaton didn't want to annoy Thomas too much, or he might refuse to train him. At 14, Thomas was the youngest elephant handler ever in the village. But Eaton hoped to beat that record. Eaton was only 8. But he was confident that he would be the finest elephant handler ever. Stand back, Thomas snapped at her. I won't let you work with the elephants today. Eaton dutifully stepped back, and he did whatever Thomas told him to do. There were other kids who hung around the elephants, but Eaton was the one Thomas had chosen to train. Thomas had assured him that when the time was right, Eaton would become the lady's handler. Eaton didn't want to change his mind. One of the kids hung around, got too close, and Eaton snapped, "Stand back!" Just as Thomas had snapped at him. Thomas glanced at Eaton. I was thinking I'd let you ride her into the village today. I'll walk beside you. Do you think you're ready? Would you like to ride these elephants? Yes. Anybody else? You would get on the elephant? Okay. All right. I'm ready, Eaton said. He had been ready for months. He patted Lady's side. Do you know what's going to happen to him? He's going to flip. Yes. I think you want to be an elephant handler even more than I once did. Sure thing, Eaton said in English. He had learned that from many of the American Special Services soldiers his father knew. The Americans had many words for yes. Do you know some of the American words for yes? Raise your hand. Okay? Yes? Yeah? American for yes? Sure. Yes. Sure. Okay, here's some easy stuff. Sure, okay, right. Affirmative, if it's military. Absolutely, yeah. Check. Roger that. Roger that. Yeah. Sure, do tennis shoes. That was a new one to me. Sure do, tennis shoe. Sure do. Ian walked around the lady's trunk to have a talk with her. I'm going to ride you today, lady. I'm going to ride you today, lady. You need to behave yourself. As if in answer, lady pushed him to the ground with her trunk, and she didn't let him up. So here's this kid. He's on the ground, and lady, she's not her foot, just her trunk, but her trunk is so big. He's down on the ground and he can't move. This is the guy that's going to ride her, the trainer. It was embarrassing. He tried to get away, but lady was too strong. Tomas, he said, can you help me? Tomas rolled his eyes. Lady, he said sharply. Lady leapt. He beat him up. You've got to be firmer with her, Tomas scolded. Use your hook to keep her in line. But I want her to like me. You want her to respect you. Now, help get these logs attached to her rope. He and one of the other boys harnessed her up. She would haul logs to the river. And I'm going to stop there. This is a story, A Million Shades of Grey. So if you want one more book in your summary, this one is, now I'm thinking about this. This is only 216 pages, okay? This is Cynthia Kodahata. She's a writer who's written many other books, and she has enough. Does anyone have a dog here? Okay. Put your hands down. Does anyone love dogs more than anything in the world? Put your hands down. Does anyone love a dog, but they're not allowed to have one? No dogs in their house, but they love them anyway. Okay. Well, this is a book for you.
I had a dog and his name was Blue. Bet you $5 he's a good dog too.
Cynthia has another book about a dog. If you love dogs, it's called Cracker. Cracker, like in dogs. Like what you eat, but Cracker stands for weapons, because this is a mine-sniffing dog. He goes into war and he can sniff when there's a mine in the ground that could explode and hurt people. So Cracker can sniff it and smell the mines, and the soldier can go in and take the mine away and make the land safe for the people, the children can walk to school. So if you love dogs, this is a wonderful book called Cracker. And that's in the children's room too. It's another really good book for you. Does anyone have a book that you read that you want to recommend to us? A book that was a really good book that others should read? What do you think? Yeah. You should say it once more?
Sadako and the Thousand Cranes.
Oh, Sadako and the Thousand Cranes. Oh, I see. Yeah. What do you recommend? Cody? A slave girl. Thank you. Okay. Is it? People can get that in the summer. Cody. Yes. Stand up.
Maniac.
Oh, Maniac. Okay, thank you. We can just do this chain. Tell the person in front of you and move the story. Maniac McGee is a wonderful book. Yeah. Recommendation? Oh, Bread and Roses. Yes. The story of Marx is a great summary. Chris told me one day. Okay. What? Captain Underpants? Why not? Why not? Diary for a Wimpy Kid. Yeah. Okay, we'll end with this one. If you love dogs, and the book will never go so fast in your life, because of Winn-Dixie. It's a great book. So, we're going to go out with an elephant song, and
wish you all a very happy summer and happy reading, and watch out for the elephants in your refrigerator. How do you know that an elephant has been there? Okay, you got it.